This episode is brought to you by Whole Foods Market. No matter how experienced of a chef you are or aren't, you can steal the show this holiday season with 365 by Whole Foods Market. 365 brand has all the wallet-friendly essentials to help you make or bring the most popular dish at the party. Plus, they have unique items to help elevate any holiday spread. With a variety of delicious cheeses and a wide selection of wine, it's easy to find the perfect thing to cheers with. Check out some of the Momofuku products to upgrade your holiday dinner. In fact, you can also make a bossam and not make turkey at all and be original and make something way more delicious. And Whole Foods has wonderful pork shoulders, and you can buy all the Momofuku products there. Steal the show this season at Whole Foods Market.
Now, we all know Portland has a great coffee scene. But did you know that for the first time ever, a Portlander has won the U.S. Barista Championship? Their name is Morgan Eckroth, and you might have already seen them in one of their many, many viral TikTok videos. She silently pantomimes amusing barista customer interactions, little slices of life of working at a coffee shop where she's always wearing a black turtleneck. And it's not a gimmick. She's actually wearing one right now.
Everyone always thinks this is a joke or like a bit that I do, and I'm like, no, this is every day. I am stuck in this permanently.
Today we're talking with a person changing coffee culture in Portland and possibly even around the world. It's Tuesday, December 13th, 2022. I'm Claudia Meza, and this is CityCast Portland. What do you remember about what got you into coffee in the first place? Because this is your entire life. Like, Morgan drinks coffee. That's your whole brand. That's your business. That's your full-time job. What got you into the coffee?
Yeah, so I was kind of a late bloomer with coffee. I didn't drink it growing up. And so my first experience with it was when I turned 16. I ended up stopping by a coffee shop purely out of curiosity. Like, walked in, of course, had no idea what I was ordering. I think I just picked something off the menu and being like, I don't know what it is, but I love this space. It was this combination of being surrounded by creative people. You have the people on their laptops on the back bar, and then you have people meeting up with friends or people reading or writing in the corner. And it was just this very idyllic experience, all while these baristas were making these very high-level drinks, and it just sparked some curiosity. And at the time, I wasn't able to pinpoint it down, but as I've grown older and thought back to it a lot, I think it really was this concept that drew me into it, where it's it's not your work, it's not your home, but it's this third meeting place that feels as comfortable as those other two. And that's really kept me stuck with coffee. I've taken off my rose-colored glasses about a lot of things as I've grown up, but for some reason, that still is so special to me.
But what makes coffee culture so special in Portland?
I think one of the most special things about Portland is the quantity of coffee here and also the passion for coffee that exists here. You can walk pretty much down any major city block and probably find one, if not two or more coffee shops run by people who are passionate and who care about hospitality. And it is incredible to have that density of excellence existing all within one city. Something else that I think is really special is how many people are baristas here. It kind of ties into that. But hospitality is such a core part of Portland's culture, whether it's from the food side or the drink side or the coffee side. And I think that's pretty incredible because you can go most places and have really excellent food and drink and also really excellent service.
Now that I've asked for the positive, I'm going to ask you to do a little on the what do you hate about it?
Some introspection. If I had to pick one thing, and it's a problem that's pervasive throughout an industry-wide thing, is wages and treatment of baristas. It's a wonderful, amazing job. And there are so many people who are so passionate about it. But being a barista is a really hard thing to do full-time from a financial perspective. People being underpaid or unpaid fairly, not receiving proper benefits. There's just so many parts of it.
Let's back it up a little bit because you live such an interesting life. You are a barista. You actually do work at a shop. You've won competitions, which we're going to get into. but also you are kind of a celebrity with over 5 million followers on TikTok. Tell me, like, what has that path been like for you?
Yeah.
From making coffee, loving it, and to being this like TikTok content maker?
I have always been super interested in social media. I was also really interested in what I didn't know was content production at the time, by how people consume things online, and then also how to create things to put online that people will enjoy. So there was that aspect of me. And then there was also the part that wanted to be a barista. And I started working as a barista. It was like a part-time college job. I was getting a marketing degree at the same time. And then in early 2019, I got on this app called TikTok.
TikTok, you say? What is this app?
This strange little app that popped up around that time. But I got on there and I was just a consumer for a while. I just like watched videos and really enjoyed it. And I hadn't really dipped my toes that far into ever putting out content with the intention of being a content creator, but I set it as like a challenge to myself. I think I could do well on this app. I very quickly started combining my work as a barista and TikTok together because it just made sense. I was at work all the time.
Wait, what made you go silent? Because that's another part of your videos that I think is really interesting is whenever I do hear you speak, it's a little disorienting.
It's very startling, isn't it? Yeah. Off the bat, it started as me just being like nervous to speak. I didn't really know how to speak on camera at that time, but I did know how to like kind of pantomime what I was doing. And so a lot of it comes from an accessibility standpoint. I want my videos to be as accessible to everyone as possible. And for me personally, I've found that that works best when I can create little vignettes that don't rely on what's being said. I try my best to communicate mostly through like actions and like kind of visual emotions.
It's like old school movies. I love it. Your little slice of life.
I do my best to create a balance. You know, one of my goals with like my content is to like accurately portray what my experience as a barista has been. And there are so many wonderful, amazing parts of it that I want to highlight. But then there's also like the really silly parts, and those parts are as real as the good parts. And so it's kind of this like balance of celebrating a job that isn't always awesome, but at the end of the day, I love it.
Okay, we're going to take a little break. And when we come back, let's hear about what really goes on at these barista championships.
Yes.
I just want to find 11,780 votes.
The Fulton County Grand Jury investigation of Donald Trump.
What proves fact A, fact B, and fact C? If we can do that, I'm going to bring an indictment.
I'm Bill Rankin.
I'm Tamar Hallerman. Join us for Season 9 of Breakdown from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution.
Listen now, and please follow us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This episode is brought to you by Whole Foods Market. It doesn't matter what type of holiday gathering you have coming up, whatever it is, you can't show up empty-handed. 365 by Whole Foods Market not only has you covered, they'll help you steal the show. From animal welfare certified fresh turkeys to frozen appetizers and baking essentials, 365 brand has budget-friendly items so you can make or bring a seasonal dish guests will love. And it's always nice to bring something unique for the host, like a bottle of wine or a specialty product or a whole box of Momofuku air-dried noodles or several containers of Momofuku Chili Crunch. All of the Momofuku products would be a wonderful house guest. Even for me, if you came to my house and you brought Momofuku products from Whole Foods, I would actually raise you in my book of friends. Pop in and get festive at Whole Foods Market.
So this year's been a pretty big year for you. You won 2 championships. You've won the U.S. Coffee Championship.
Yes.
And you're the only Portland champ, which is fantastic. Thank you for doing that for us. Because Seattle's done it like, I don't know, a gajillion times. And I was counting and I was like, I know, I was like, again.
Portland needs its little moment, though.
Yeah. So then that naturally entered you into the World Barista Championship, which has been happening for like decades. And only 2 Americans have won it. And you were runner-up?
Runner-up, yes. I wish I'd won it.
That is huge. I've always been kind of interested in these barista like championships, sort of the same way that I've been interested in like sommeliers and how they do things. Because to me, it's very similar.
They're very comparable, yes.
Yeah, because it's also just like what they're putting you through is insane.
You're like, this is a drink. Like, what are they doing? And it's like, oh, it gets worse.
So what goes into the competition? Like, what are you trying, especially compared to like the US championship to the world championship? Like, I'm wondering if it prepared you for the world championship or if it was completely different.
Yeah. So they have very similar formats to them. Barista championships exist all over the world. Many, many different countries hold them. The goal of barista championships at all levels is to select an ambassador that is representative for the coffee industry and for like baristas as like a job/career. And what they do is they've put together a competition that is geared towards highlighting a lot of the skills that go into your job as a barista, but kind of taking them to the next level. Because if you've watched barista routines, you know they don't necessarily look like what you're going to experience in a cafe, but it's like a very like...
It's like a TED Talk.
It's like, yeah, it's like a magnified version of it. So it's a 15-minute routine. You are presenting a panel of sensory judges, a theme, and a very like memorized and written out script. So you're giving them tasting notes, and you're also giving them tactile calls, which is like, what is the weight of the coffee in your mouth? What is the texture? Is it juicy? Is it dry? Like those sorts of things. And the judges will score you essentially based on the accuracy of those tasting calls. So that's the core of the point system. And then you also have technical judges who are hovering behind you, watching things like cleanliness and workflow. And
I'm going to pause you there. They're not just hovering. They're
they are in
in
your
your face. Like I don't know how you kept your grace and remembered all your words.
They are very well trained. You know, honestly, as invasive as it can look from an audience perspective, for me on the stage, I don't even notice them. Like they are so good at their jobs that they are just out of your line of sight where it's not a problem, but they're still able to capture all the information they need. It's a very cool skill to have.
I've always been really jealous of people who can drink these fancy milk coffee drinks because my body rejects milk. Like,
me too.
Really?
The amount of lactate I take during competition season is incredible.
Morgan, this is what the entire interview should be about, is how you survived.
It does feel like survival. That's a good word.
No, it is. I was going to say, like, my body rejects milk with the same fervor that, I don't know, like a Pentecostal, like, revival rejects the devil.
I wish I could drink it. I really do. It's delicious, but my body does not love it.
Oh my God. Okay. Wow. That was like our plot twist. That
secretly lactose sensitive.
Yeah. What was your showstopper?
The signature beverage that I served at the World Barista Championship was kind of a take on a coffee cream soda. So we had the espresso that we were serving from the coffee we were highlighting. We had multiple different types of citrus. Both of the citrus juices we used tied back into Colombia, which is where my coffee is from. We used freeze distilled milk, which is essentially just a very, very, very high fat content milk. So it's similar to half and half. We used that inside it. It was chilled. It also had like a simple syrup in there. And then that was all carbonated in this really cool like cocktail carbonation system called a Perlini. So it ended up being carbonated and yet like really creamy and rich. And then we garnished it with orange blossom water and star anise tea. And so it created this really cool like aromatic experience of these just intense florals. And then underneath was this sweet, effervescent, creamy coffee cocktail. And it was very tasty.
That sounds awesome. Well, could you make that with an oat milk? It would just ruin everything.
I bet you could make it work. I also think you could use potentially like coconut cream as like a substitute. Like it would taste different, but texture-wise, it'd be similar.
Yeah. So you're still working as a barista. Like, what's it like working your barista job and having all this very niche fame?
It's very, yes. It's I really picked myself a corner to find a way in. I do get recognized on occasion while working shifts. I feel very blessed to work a job that people like want to say hello to me because of. Like that's a very cool thing that I don't take for granted. That being said, like when I'm working as a barista, I am clocked in just like everyone else is there. I have a shift to work. You know, it's a very like normal everyday experience, but it also is such a treat to be able to like have people come in and be able to like make them coffee, because that's what I love doing. And to be able to do it to people who it might mean a little bit more to is a very cool thing.
I mean, coffee culture does have just that bit of like hipster elitism. And I feel like that's not your work. Those aren't your videos. What is it that you're trying to do that's different than the cliched, let's say, beanie hipster Portland barista?
Yeah, I think a lot of my content, especially early on, could be perceived as that. You know, even if my intentions are good in like kind of celebrating this job, there are definitely times in the past where I think I've like not taken the right tone and, whatever. Ultimately, though, I think a lot of those kind of claims to like pretentiousness or like the hipster barista stereotype come from a knowledge gap that just exists between some baristas and some consumers. In specialty coffee, we are often trained with extensive knowledge about the science and the supply chain behind this coffee. And so they are coming at it from a very high level. Whereas you have consumers who, and not to any fault of their own, but might not have that same knowledge base. And so with a lot of my content, my goal was to hopefully bridge that gap, if not a little bit, or at least push people in the right direction, because ultimately the goal is always like the betterment of the coffee industry. And if we aren't able to explain why we as professionals care about coffee to other people, and if we aren't able to meet them where they are, then I think it'll be very hard to progress forward. So a lot of my content, a lot of my goals, especially nowadays, are just figuring out where, for lack of a better word, the general public is, and figuring out how I can kind of start them on this journey of like, hey, I want to like teach you why I love this thing so much, but you're over here and I'm over here. So let's figure out how we get you from point A to point B.
Well, Morgan, thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to speak to us.
Thank you for having me.
You can follow Morgan on most platforms using her handle @MorganDrinksCoffee. We'll throw a link to her videos in the show notes. And now for your microdose of news. A new lawsuit is pushing Portland to make amends for a city planning decision that displaced hundreds of Black Portlanders. Starting in the late 60s, the city demolished large areas of the Albina neighborhood to make way for Emmanuel Hospital, known as Legacy Emmanuel Health today. Now, the descendants of those displaced Portlanders have filed a federal civil rights case alleging that the decision was race-based discrimination. We'll be keeping an eye on this one. And last week, during our conversation on the unions taking shape at new seasons, we asked some big questions about their famous banana cake. Now we have the scoop, or slice, I don't know. An anonymous New Seasons worker tipped us off that the company used to have a central kitchen where a lot of their signature foods were prepared, but they say the company closed that kitchen, laid off most of the workers, and started cutting corners, so not much is organic these days. Quote, the banana cake is cut in store but baked by a new third party with cheaper ingredients than before. Thank you to those who responded about that, by the way. Thank you. See, we got them. This might be one of my proudest moments of journalism. I just want everyone to know. If you want to hear more about what's going on in the city, sign up for our daily newsletter, Hey Portland. I'll throw a link in our show notes. That's all we have for you today here at CityCast Portland. Thanks so much for joining us. Now, if you enjoyed the show, share it with a friend, leave us a review. It's really going to help us out. And we'd love to hear from you. The new year is just a few weeks away. What are your New Year's predictions for our fair city? What are your wishes? Shoot us an email at portland@citycast.fm or leave us a voicemail at 503-208-5448. We'll be back in a few days with more from around the city. See you at Slim's.